Hello and welcome to the Adrian Bo Podcast, the interview series, where we take a deep dive into some of the most influential minds in real estate.
Folks, Adrian Bo Podcast, we're back, episode 203, with a return guest, part of the interview series, the very, very good man, Jack Henderson. How you doing?
Mate, I'm good. Thank you for welcoming me back. Bit of water under the bridge since the last one.
I know. Well, the last guest, we went under the same process where I said to Shannon Whitney, do you recall when you were on last? And but I think I just gave it away before we went on air. So it was 2021 November, episode 117, and I looked at the podcast notes, Hendo, and it said that you were 25, you'd just opened the business 12 months ago,
right?
Right,
would have been right.
And as a buyer's agent, you'd done 100 deals.
Sounds about right,
Yeah. So, my God, so much has happened since then, my bro. So, as I said to Shannon, it's like I treat this podcast as just a great opportunity to catch up with people I like and enjoy their company, and just thousands of people just happen to listen to it, right? So,
Good outcome.
Even though I'm not a huge fan of going into people's sort of past, how they sort of, came to a certain point, because it's very cliche and it's done to death in podcasts, and it's a bit like a version of like, this is your life, But with you, I think it's very different, bro, because, you really did come from a totally different background in Newcastle. If you could just give us I want to more focus on the future and what you're doing now, but just give us a brief summary of where it all started in Newcastle. And I know you're in a trade and or in mining, and then sort of I know Chris Gray was one of your great mentors, who was
still a good friend.
Who I did a lot of business with, because obviously most of my selling career, as you know, was Coogee Randwick, and he was buying Coogee Randwick units like the like the hot dinners, So I did a lot of business with Chris. So just talk us briefly through how that transition all happened.
So I did, like, Newcastle was obviously a big part of my life. I didn't grow up there. A lot of people think I grew up there. I grew up in Western Sydney, so out past where Josh sells. He sells.
So whereabouts in particular?
In a place called Wilberforce,
I know
is on the other side of
I've called
Windsor.
a couple there for Josh.
There you go.
Mate, we go anywhere.
So I grew up there and did it normal upbringing, public schools. Got into civil construction when I was 15, 16. I got kicked out of school.
Why'd you get kicked out of school?
Oh, just all the reasons.
Rat bag?
Just didn't want to be there, Like I wasn't like Mike Tyson or anything like that. I'm not much of a fighter, but I just didn't want to be at school. So
right. Did you end up finishing year 12?
No, I didn't even finish year 10. So
wow. So that's at age like 14, 15.
I was 15, I feel like the year you go from 15 to 16.
Yeah. Okay.
So left school, and then obviously I didn't have a license because I was 15. So I had my L's. I just went into what I could do, which was Dad worked in construction. He was like a foreman for a big civil construction mob. And he said, well, you're not sitting at home doing nothing. You're coming to work with me. So that's how I fell into civil construction. Did that from 15 to 18.
Excuse my ignorance and other people's ignorance, but what the fuck is civil construction?
Civil construction is essentially everything that happens before something goes on top of the ground. So all the stormwater, the earthworks, the roads, all that shit, it falls under the civil construction banner.
And does that fall under engineering?
There is engineers that work inside of those firms. Gotcha. Absolutely. They're civil engineers generally.
Yep.
But, mate, I was just a labourer. I was the guy that was on the shovel working with, the grader operator, or working with the excavator operator, or the bobcat operator, cleaning up all the shit essentially. But it was good. And to be honest, I really loved construction. Yeah. I'm not a tradie because I don't have a trade behind me.
Yeah.
But I was in the same industry. Yeah. But the good thing about it was, because I left school at that age and went into a labouring role, when you're a labourer, you're not getting paid based on your age. As an apprentice, you're a year one apprentice, regardless if you're 18 or you're 42, you get paid very, very similar amounts.
So good money.
As an apprentice, not so much. But when you're a labourer, if you're 18 or you're 50 as a labourer, you get paid the exact same amount of money.
Right.
So, or very similar. So I was earning, $1,000 a week, $1,200 a week.
At 15.
At a fucking 15-year-old.
Me.
you know?
Yeah.
Working 6 days a week, had zero expenses, wasn't paying board or rent, or I didn't have a car. So I had literally nothing to spend my money on other than Xbox games and shit, you know?
Yeah.
So I saved up a heap of money in a relatively short period of time, like from 15 to 18. And that's when mum and dad fortunately guided me and said, hey, buying a house is generally the most expensive thing anyone ever does. You've got the money sitting there to go and do it. Go and buy a house. So they took me into the local ANZ branch at Windsor, and Jody was the banker's name, I remember, and she got me my first loan. And
how old were you then?
18.
18. So do you have to, I should know the answer to this, but do you need to be 18 to actually legally buy
I believe so. Yeah,
okay,
you need to be 18.
Yeah.
And
when you said you had the money in the bank, so obviously you got a loan.
Deposit,
deposit
sitting there. And between 15 and 18, I'd bought myself my first car because I got my P's obviously during that time. And I'd done everything. I'd, done a few Gold Coast trips with the boys and stuff like that, you do when you're young. But had a good chunk of cash sitting there, and that's what got me my first property. Yep. And that's actually how I met Chris Gray, you mentioned before. Right. That's how I met him.
Where was that property you bought?
Coogee, Bream Street, 74 Bream Street.
I know the building. We remember I sold a couple in there and years ago, and you were you're the one
right at the bottom.
Yep,
that's right.
You still got that?
Subterranean, fucking 1.5 better. Probably wouldn't buy it again.
Can I tell you, my first unit was almost identical in Coogee.
Dead set.
Subterranean, Byron Street. 170,500. I never forget. I bought it at the age of same 18.
Yeah.
18. Yeah.
Yeah, well, mate, I've still got it. I just got it valued only literally the other day because I'm going to refinance, and it come back at just under 1.3. So
wow.
It's not a bad
cracker building, nice Art Deco, very close to the beach.
Close to the beach. We actually Airbnb it now. We just put it up on Airbnb a few months ago. So that's how I got into the property sphere.
Yeah.
And then at 21 I moved to Newcastle because I met a girl. She lived in Newcastle.
Okay, so that was the only
that's what took me there,
reason you
and we're still together fortunately now, 8 years later, so it was worth the move.
Yeah.
And for sort of from 21 to 23, actually when I moved up there, I said to Emma, I said, look, I'm going to be here for 2 years only because when I turn 23, I want to go back to Sydney and I want to get into property full time.
Right.
So
you made that conscious
2 years
decision.
to the date. It was October long weekend I started, and the October long weekend 2 years later I finished.
Right. And what were you doing work-wise in Newcastle?
That was civil construction and mining. So I moved into a company called Darracon. It's probably one of the largest privately owned construction companies in Australia.
Yeah.
And they did both civil and they did mining. So it was a combination of both.
So I assume that the money was pretty good there. It was better.
Yeah. Because we did a lot of living away from home. So you're getting, big allowances, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Like you're doing big hours, you're getting paid big money. And for me, I was young. It was perfect.
Yeah,
you know.
What was the trigger though that said to you, I want to go back to Sydney and get into property though, like 2 years later?
Well, but from when I bought my first property until then, I just become obsessed with property and investing, and I was in Chris Gray's world.
Yes.
I'd never seen, we're sitting here, I'm looking up at what's that building called here in
Horizon?
Horizon. I'd never seen this shit before. I was from Wilberforce. We got turf farms and vegetable farms. Coming into this world where there's just affluence everywhere and these incredible lifestyles.
Yeah,
I become obsessed with that, and I was like, that's the life that I want. And the only reason I wanted to get into property as a buyer's agent is because Chris was a buyer's agent. So I was like, oh, fuck, he's a buyer's agent. That's where you must be able to make some money.
So how did you meet him when you bought Bream Street?
So it was a funny story.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think I was about 17, and mum and dad had started to say, you should think about buying a property. You're almost 18, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, sweet. So as you do, as soon as I find out about something, you start doing some research. So I'm on Google, I'm on YouTube, I'm listening to podcasts. And there's so many people out there, in the days, when I was buying my first one, the big names were people like Nathan Birch, Chris Gray was a big name. The property couch guys, Bryce Holdaway and Ben Kingsley, all those guys were sort of like the Jack Henderson of today, if that makes sense. They were the guys that you see everywhere.
Yeah.
So I started to listen to all their podcasts, and a few of them had books and all the rest of it. And you generally resonate with one type of person. Some people resonate with me, and some people resonate with you, and some people despise of both of us, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
So Chris was the guy. Plenty of them, lots of them. Probably more that despise me than like me, but that's all right. Chris was the guy that I resonated with more than anyone else because he lived an awesome life. He had this sort of demeanor about him, which I really liked. And so I found this YouTube video that I just love. It's still online. It's a video where he spoke to a bunch of CPAs.
Yeah.
And then as I started to do more research, I saw that he started to do seminars. So what I do is I jump on a train out in Windsor, get the train in on like a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, listen to, Chris talk at some event, do all my notes, and then I jump on the train and go back home. And then I've added him on Facebook and followed him on Instagram and all the rest of it. And for the first property, the reason I bought in Coogee is because Chris brought in Coogee. That's like you just said.
That's right, yeah.
He always said buy a 2-bedroom apartment, close, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, that's what he buys. That's what I buy. So then, when I got the pre-approval, I'd drive in on the weekends. I'd go around, look at properties, pretend I knew what I was doing. I knew fuck all. Yeah. As you can see, I bought a subterranean 1.5 bed. and that was it. And then
his formula, as you probably know, back then when I was selling properties to him, was the 70s blocks because they had they were all the same, 2-bedroom, internal laundry, balcony, lock-up garage. Yep. And he used to tell me, Bowie, mate, my clients, they don't even need to see it because I know it ticks all the boxes and it'll rent. I can say with confidence it'll always rent and it'll always go up in value. And if whatever strata issues there ever was, they've gone and passed, and in fact there's heaps less strata issues because things were built around that 70s period when it was all sort of council directly approved rather than private certifiers, which started in the 80s, and that's when there was a lot of issues with new construction.
The methodology, you see,
yeah, there you go. So was your fascination with Chris Hendo? Was it the fact that he was a buyer's agent or someone that was accumulating property?
Yeah, it was probably that he was a wealthy guy who lived an awesome life was the first thing because I was like, fuck, I didn't know people could live these lives. Like wealthy to me growing up and where we lived was like you had a Land Cruiser or a boat and you lived on the river. That was wealthy in my area, you know, and if you had that, you were like, you were up there. Yeah. And then you come in here and there's like fucking yachts on the harbour that are worth, more than my suburb. Yeah. So that was the first fascination. And then obviously you start to understand what they do. Also, you buy properties for people. That's how you've made money, blah, blah. And that's what sort of got me interested in being a buyer's agent.
So that conscious decision, that you mentioned to Emma that you'll be back into was to come back to be a buyer's agent?
That's right.
Yeah, okay. So not to be a real estate agent.
I would work for Chris.
Right.
But Chris would never hire me.
Right.
Because during that period of my life, I was pretty loose. I'm a young 21, 22-year-old. Yeah. And I started to get relatively close to Chris and his group of friends. And I actually used his services to buy another apartment in Maroubra in Bonavista Avenue. Yeah. And anytime he'd see me out, because I was a client then, I'd be blind drunk and I'd be having fun. And he was like, fuck, you're just a liability for my clients. We're not, I can't work with you. Yeah. So but
back in the day, he was pretty loose too.
Yeah. I mean, I never really saw that side of him.
He'd be cruising around Coogee in that pink Ferrari with Empire property on it, and he was one of the first guys to have like a proper boat and the whole thing, and it was interesting. Okay, so it was never to become a real estate agent, a buyer's agent, and buyer's agency was quite in its infancy at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean there'd be like the OGs that have been around for 100 years, like your Cohen handlers, and the property buyers like Rich Harvey and all that, like they've been around for a while, but I suppose since, I started the business in 2021. Yeah. So, it was January of 2021 that I started it. So it's 9 months before I did that body. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't as big as it is right now. And even right now in relativity to, selling
say
agents,
the US or
it's still not huge, but it's much more common than it used to be.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay. So fast forward to today from when we did that podcast last time. So really there was only one vertical to your business then. You opened a buyer's agency.
And it was traditional owner-occupier buyer's agency at that stage. So I worked for Trelease Associates originally in Double Bay.
Yes, Daniel.
Yep.
Is he still around?
I don't know. I don't think his business is around anymore.
Right.
I think
he had
changed.
A very strange approach to business when he bought properties through me as an agent, that he had this thing that he didn't want to let anyone know about his results. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was
philosophy?
Like fully confidential.
Yeah,
or
what
something.
Was that all about?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like a marketing thing. Yeah.
Right, a marketing thing. Okay.
I want to let everyone know about my results.
I know. It's strange, right?
I think it was like, it was something different in the eastern suburbs. It was like everyone sort of pounds their chests about how good their results are. They were sort of the opposite.
But that's just leverage marketing, right?
Essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
But I worked for him for, I started with him in the October of 2019. And I finished up in the following October in 2020. And previous to that, you think like I come out of construction and mining, never having ever picked up a telephone and called someone or like other than like mates when you're talking shit. Never did any marketing, nothing. So I'd come out literally on the Friday I finished as a construction worker. And on the Monday I was working in Daniel Trelease's office in Double Bay. So I went from wearing fluoros on the Friday to wearing, I used to bloody spend all this money on suits that I never wear anymore.
Wow. And how long were you there for?
For 12 months exactly. And I've become their highest performer within 12 months. So from zero to... And Daniel wasn't really buying then. He was obviously doing more business than me, but he sort of was running the company. But out of everyone who worked there, I did the most amount of transactions in GCI in that first 12 months.
How did you manage that? Just from coming from...
It was a good market. If you remember back then, that was probably one of the things.
It was. COVID, post.
It was just pre and post. So it was like 2019 was just before it. There was a little sort of 3-month period there at the start of 2020 where it was a bit choppy, and then after it just like exploded.
You had anywhere between 10 to 40% growth in some areas. Some regional up to 60%.
And it was so competitive that like you'd cold call someone and they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're the bloody shining angel I needed. So I think the thing that really helped was I had no preconceived idea of what you should or should not do.
Uninhibited.
No idea.
Yeah.
It was just like, here, Jack, here's some numbers. Here's a phone. Here's the script. Go mad. And I was like, righto.
Yeah.
I sort of, and I still now, but like I sounded a bit like an Aussie bogan. I was like, a bit rough around the edges.
That was your USP.
But it was just me. I had no idea what I was doing. And I just called these people and it was probably very dissimilar to what they had heard from the other 50 people that had tried to call them, they're very polished and salesy, and I was just me.
So for that period, say you were number one tournament, that would have been maybe 50 deals or something.
Yeah, so I think it was less than that, to be honest. I think 34. I did maybe 35, 40 deals, and it was we probably had an average fee of 30 grand or something, Okay. So I did maybe 800 grand in GCI or some shit.
Yeah, okay. So then when I interviewed you last in November of 21, you'd opened almost a year, done about 100 deals. That and you only really had that one vertical being just buyers agent.
Just owner occupier buyers agency, Sydney, and then we started to do a bit more in Newcastle when I just did my own thing. Yeah.
So fast forward to today, and I've only got questions for you because I just observe and I've seen and noticed you've got multiple verticals to your business today, and I've been watching with admiration. And I know in between there's been a couple of hiccups, like
plenty of hiccups,
media, and I do remember reaching out to you as soon as the negative media happened because I obviously experienced that myself in 2019.
I do recall that.
Yeah, and I just said, mate, trust me, you're going to get through this. I'm here, whatever you need, 7 days a week. Because I know that's what I needed when I went through it, and there was people like that. So because you can get in your own head, and I know at the time you can't be told because you just can't see the light. But as you know, those outcomes are very easy to label as bad outcomes at the time. But in hindsight, they're just outcomes that can be, in fact, labelled as good outcomes, right?
Looking back on it now, it's probably the best thing that ever happened, to be honest.
That's it, right? But no one could tell you then, because soon after that, and I've almost got a photographic memory, but soon after that, you spoke alongside me at the Tesla conference, and mate, you were
at the time.
Yeah, it was right. It was like the day before.
Yeah, that morning, I remember I was on the front page of the Telegraph, not the Telegraph, the bloody Newcastle Herald.
Yeah, you were kicking stones, man. You were like, and I remember before your talk, I came out to you and said, mate, no one that knows you is going to reinvent their opinion of you.
Yeah, and
I said, the people that don't know you or are going to create an opinion, fuck them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and you did well, man. You did well. You got up there, you showed up, you fronted up, you did your thing, and you did well. But so looking at today, let us know about this enterprise, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
What are the verticals? What's the roster of staff? What does it look like? What's the revenue?
So now, I guess from where we started, owner-occupier buyers agency, in that sort of space, competing with all the other owner-occupier buyers agents, charging the same fees, percentage of purchase price, all that jazz, which is a good model, no doubt about it, but it's a model that requires me to get on the ground every day, do the deals, which I didn't like. Now we're very much.
You didn't like, or you didn't think you could scale properly?
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Yeah.
Okay.
I liked it at the start because it was new.
Yeah.
And then what I started to realize is majority of that sort of business comes from referrals from past clients, or it comes from referrals from real estate agents.
Yeah.
I really struggle to have fake relationships, and that's a very, trying to be friends with a selling agent because they're going to give you referrals, but if they weren't, you wouldn't be friends with them. Like that didn't sit well with me.
Gotcha.
So I just I was like, I didn't want to do this. And I also didn't want the business to be reliant on someone else. Yeah. Because that's what you are, right?
Sure.
So I love investment. That was how I got into property through, buying my own investments. That's what Chris did. He was an investment guy. So I started to move in that direction. Started to do more work with people like Alex Hormozy, learn about how to craft an offer, learn about pricing and how to differentiate yourself so your pricing can be 3, 4, 5, 10 times more expensive than someone sitting right next to you, but the perception of it is you're way more valuable. So I did a lot of learning. Anyway, we pivoted. We're 99.9% investment focused now. I call us more of a wealth creation firm as opposed to a buyer's agency. We have a buyer's agent component of the company. But now we're very much full service. So we're full service from finance and portfolio planning all the way through to asset management on the back end. And then in between, we have a buyer's agency. We have a full service construction company that I own. We have the account. We don't have accounting internally, but we work with a lot of external accountants around structuring and accounting advice. Yeah. And then
So when you say total solution, let's call it. So who's your typical client?
Most of our clients are professionals and small business owners.
Right.
Earning probably 300 grand as a minimum.
Right.
There is some people that fall under that, obviously, but most of them are 300 plus. And they're people who say, hey, I've got some money behind me. I've got some equity in a home. I've got a business that's doing well, and I don't know what to do.
Okay.
They'll come to us and they'll say, this is the outcome that I want. I'm not really pro shares, or I've done these other things that haven't really worked out. I've made some money generally in property in the past, usually through buying their own home. They trust it, but they don't know how to buy. They don't know what to buy. They don't know where to buy. They don't know how to structure it.
Yes.
They want to add value to it, and they don't know how to do that. And that's why they come to us.
Gotcha.
So we build out a full portfolio plan which shows them where they are right now, the goals that they have, and everything they need to do between now and then to be able to achieve it, how many properties they need to buy, when they need to buy them, what they can spend, when they need to sell them down and liquidate and then move into commercial, like all that stuff. We literally answer all the questions.
Yes.
Then we help them with the finance strategy and the structuring, which is where we work with brokers and accountants.
Yes.
We've got our own internal finance now. Then once we set that up, then we work through advocacy. So it's where we're buying and what we're buying. Our team go out there and source the deals. Then we have our construction team do a major renovation or a small development, or we had a granny flood or whatever it is.
Right.
And then our asset management team look after the actual management of the asset. And then it's back to the start again. And
So that demographic of client, once they enter your ecosystem, what's the typical, I know you've sort of briefly just high level described it, but what's the typical journey that they would go on, like from inception to say, a 2 or 3 year plan, for example?
Yeah, so most of our clients would have a 5-year acquisition plan, I would say.
Right.
So a lot of them are, we've only been in business for 4 years. So a lot of them now are at the start of their acquisition plans.
Right.
And they might, depending on who they are and their serviceability and their goals and all the rest of it, they might have a plan that says over the next 5 years, we've got to acquire 10 assets.
Okay.
At $15 million
but
of total
do you guys advise on that, or they've
No, we advise on that.
Okay. So they haven't walked in saying this is what I want to do.
Nah.
They've walked in and said, I need help.
They walk in and say, this is what I want, the goal.
Right.
I want to have...
But that could evolve.
That's right. I don't want to have to work in my business within 15 years. That's what they'll say. Or my wife's, going on maternity leave because we're having kids and I don't want her to have to return to work, for example. Or...
Right. So they advise you what circumstance or position in life they want to achieve.
That's right. What the outcome is that they want.
I got you. Okay.
And then we go, okay, well, based on property, because we can't advise on anything else, it's just property.
Yeah.
This is how we can get you there. This is what you need to do. And we've got custom portfolio planning software that we've built, which literally shows them all these different scenarios and outcomes and, different stress tests. And we put 1,000,001 different variables in there. They go, yep, this sounds great. This is exactly what we want. Right. And then we implement and execute that plan. Literally from the finance, because what do you need to be able to buy assets? And there's a lot more to finance than just getting a pre-approval. Like structuring is a massive component of it, not just from an asset protection point of view, but from a serviceability protection point of view, a taxation point of view, and then, obviously where to buy. There's 1,000,001 strategies out there, 1,000,001 suburbs you could buy, 1,000,001 assets you could buy. So we go out there and execute the purchase. And then if we're adding value to it, I don't know if you've done renovations or work to a property, but like it's a challenging thing to do, So we manage that whole process. It's our construction team. It's our building company that only does work for our clients, no one else. And then, asset management on the back end that then manages the properties for them. And every 6 months we do portfolio reviews and valuations on their properties. Like, I don't know if you've seen, but I constantly post all of our updated valuations because we get incredible results. And then the whole idea is, instead of just doing one purchase or one transaction, like we want our lifetime value of that customer to be as high as possible. And the only way that happens is if they get the outcomes that they want. So,
gotcha. Okay. So, when you said before you didn't like the fact that you had to fake a relationship with a real estate agent and all that. So where do these clients come from then?
It's all through paid media or organic social. Yeah.
Right.
So the only referrals we get now, like we get some referrals from brokers and stuff. It's less than 1% of our business.
Yeah.
But it's either past client referrals.
Yeah.
Clients rebuying, or new clients who have found us through.
So it's all inbound. There's no proactive prospecting your team is doing.
Oh yeah. We generate thousands and thousands and thousands of leads every month.
But digitally, what about phone prospecting?
But they go outbound to them via phone. So we generate the lead inbound. They might come through one of our online trainings. They might come through a lead magnet, which is the 10 tax strategies for someone earning over 500 grand.
Right.
So they'll give us their name, number, and then
you contact them.
And then we're like, my guys do about 13 to 1,500 outbound calls a day.
Right. Yeah. So those lead generation verticals or funnels, can you just talk us through what are they exactly?
Yeah, so the biggest funnel is my organic social, like my organic media. Yeah. We hit roughly 10 to 12 million accounts a month organically.
Okay.
That's just through Instagram.
Yep.
And that's a lot of people.
That's a lot. So so just to get minutia, that's just people DMing or calling you based off.
Well, that's just people seeing my content. Right.
And then
so we use a lot of my organic stuff as top of funnel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where people see us.
Yeah.
Then off the back of that, they'll then start to get hit with ads. So generally, like we got top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Bottom of funnel is when you're trying to get their name, number, and email.
Yes.
And the other things above that are essentially just adding value to build more trust.
So they're getting targeting and retargeting.
Yeah.
And have you got someone in-house that does all this?
Yeah. We use some external consultants. We got internal marketing.
Okay.
I'm obviously pretty clued up on it myself.
Yeah.
So that's where I spend the majority of my time is marketing these days.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And we fully control how many leads we generate, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is reliant on no one other than Mark Zuckerberg generally, because he owns Facebook.
And any other so the leads come in, the team calls them.
Yeah. So we probably have let me give you the real data. I'll pull my phone up here. I get my sales report.
And apart from social, is there any other digital assets or lead funnels that we're using?
Obviously we do a little bit of Google,
right.
But we're generally only spending on Google to just recoup the people that are looking at Henderson, because we are one of the biggest marketers online in our space.
Yeah.
A lot of people will advertise and capture our audience and just spend based on our name.
Okay.
So we're just getting back our own audience essentially.
Yeah.
So if I do, just to give you real data, because I'm assuming a lot of people are real estate based here.
Yeah.
So from yesterday, my team did 1,389 outbound dials.
Right.
They had 300 conversations or 294 conversations, and we booked 10 sales meetings off the back of that. So 10 client meetings or potential client meetings. Plus we would have had then all of our inbound people where people book automatic calls.
Yeah.
So I've got links in all of my social channels where people book a call into the Calendly, which they speak to the team. And then we also run webinars online.
Yes.
And at the end of those webinars, then people book calls as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And is those conversion numbers typical, what you just talked about?
Yeah, that's every day.
That's typical.
Every day.
That's typical. And how are you tracking that? Is that a software?
We use a CRM, but then every day I get a daily report from my sales manager.
Okay. And is that a proprietary CRM or one
we use Zoho?
Zoho. Okay.
Which is custom built to our needs, but
Yes.
Zoho's an off the shelf.
So it's like a Salesforce that you can
Exactly
nuance
right.
it.
Yep. And then we've got our own dialer. Like dialers are very, very important. I don't know if many people use dialers, but you can be way more productive with a dialer as opposed to, just using a standard phone.
Yes. Can you tell us about the dialer?
Yeah, so like there's lots of different dialers out there. In our world, speed to lead is one of the most important things. So when someone gives you their name, number, and email, contacting those people ideally within the first 5 minutes, you have an incredible increase in pickup rate.
Yeah.
If you have someone give you their name, number, and email and you don't call them for 3 days, you're near guaranteed never going to get a hold of them.
Yeah.
So we've got a dialer that optimizes for that. So as soon as we get a name, number, and email, that goes straight into our dialer, and they literally will give us their name, number, and email now, and one of my guys is calling them in about.
So, excuse my ignorance, a dialer is a human?
A dialer is a piece of software, which is like a phone dialer. So instead of just calling through your CRM and clicking on it and calling one by one, dialers are automatic, constantly calling. So you've just got lists where it's calling literally every second.
Right.
Someone picks up, you speak to that person, and then as soon as you get off the phone, it's calling again.
Okay.
We also record our calls as well. Like legally, you got to tell people that the call's being recorded.
Okay. So a dialer is just a piece of technology, but there's still a human that's actually.
Yeah, we've got a human that actually does. I mean, we've got AI callers as well that do calling.
Yeah.
We've had mixed results with them.
Yeah.
We're constantly testing different stuff, but you can't beat a human at this stage.
Yeah. Okay. So once a client enters your ecosystem.
Yep.
And they go through obviously it sounds like the first face-to-face touch point is this sales meeting, what you call it.
Yeah,
right?
we call it an advantage session, which is essentially like a consult.
Yeah, consult. How long does that go for?
An advantage session's about 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Yep.
And is that always face-to-face?
Never face-to-face.
No,
Everything's
Zoom.
digital. Yep. Oh, it's generally phone call.
Phone call. Okay. And what experience do I need if I'm in your team to be able to make that call?
Like our closers, we call them, or our sales consultants. They're generally people who have got their own portfolios. They're very knowledgeable about property. Jess is our top salesperson. She's got 7 properties, big portfolio. She's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Because it's not just like, hey, let's sign up and get started. Like it's a lot of advisory style of work to build trust before they come on as clients.
Yeah.
So people who are starting now as like outbound setters, they can get the skills required, but they still need the practical application of being a property investor themselves to be able to give advice to other people.
Okay.
So it's not something you can just sort of move your way into, if that makes sense.
So Jess is making that call, for example, for 45 minutes.
Yep.
What's her objective by the end of that call?
To either qualify them and bring them on as a client,
yes,
or to unqualify them and give them the advice on what they need to do to become a client.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. But I'm assuming some of those calls just end up in nothing.
That's right. If they're not qualified, then she won't pitch them. She'll say, hey, you haven't got X, Y, and Z, or you need to do this. My advice would be to bang, 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 bang. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we're ideally only pitching people to come on board as clients if we know 110% we can help them.
So Jess makes that call.
Yep.
What's usually the percentage of people who become clients?
Her close rate's 40%.
40%.
Yeah.
Good.
So 4 out of 10.
Good. So when we say qualified to become a client, what are the objective criterias usually? Just top level.
So financial's a big one.
Yeah.
They need the serviceability and the capital to be able to do something.
Yeah.
Emotionally, they need to be ready as well.
Yes.
Like, someone might be qualified financially, but, like they might have shit going on in their life, or they have to wait for this to happen or that to happen. Again, you're not going to pitch someone who can't get started straight away.
Gotcha.
They are people who need to align with our strategy. There's a lot of different investment strategies out there, right? You can do off the plan, you can do brand new, you can do regional, you can do there's lots of different strategies, so they need to be qualified from that point of view.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
So that's a lot to cover in 45 minutes. She and the other people must be very good.
Previous to the call that the closers do, they are also getting. There's a qualification call. We call them a discovery call.
Yeah, discovery.
That also happens.
Yeah.
So essentially, our sales process is you've got your outbound call, which then sets for a discovery call.
Yes.
They're 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I've got in my business, which I do personally.
Yeah.
And that way I can just direct them whether they need to do an EBU session, one of my online courses or a face-to-face or whatever. Yeah,
that's right. And then off the back of that discovery call, if the person doing the discovery call feels that they're qualified enough to have an advantage session, then they go to our advantage.
So the 40% of people that do qualify, they've got the eligibility, both emotionally, financially. Next step.
Then once they become a client, they get formally onboarded. They go into our client success team. We've got our own proprietary, client portal that they all get onboarded onto.
Right.
Step one, they obviously do an onboarding call. Then they roll into we need to get all their information from them for their portfolio plan. They then get introduced to our finance team.
Okay. So you'd be that finance team would be liaising with their tax accountant, I assume.
Exactly. Yep. Or some people don't even have an accountant. They're like, oh, we need a good accountant. So that's what happens in that stage of the journey. So essentially onboarding them as clients, there's a lot of shit that goes on.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's the first time being a client is probably the most intense time because it's when you've never done anything with us before. We know, as little as we're going to know about you for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So that's when we're gathering everything, even finance now for like high income earners and business owners, if they've got complex income streams or income structures, like it takes ages. The amount of documents that a bank requires, it's like some people get finance, it takes 6 months.
Yep.
We need this tax return, you haven't done that. We need this document, that document, this. We need a lease for this car. Like it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And usually, Hendo, from that time that they're onboarded, just generally speaking, until you'll purchase their first property, ballpark, what sort of time frame we're looking?
I would say, let's assume that the onboarding and approval process to get in a position to buy their first property takes 3 months.
Yeah.
We'll assume that.
Okay.
From when they start searching to buy a property, from when they actually unconditionally transact, probably takes 6 weeks.
Okay.
Give or take.
So it's quick.
Yep.
That's quick.
Some longer, some shorter, but like on average, I would say 6 weeks.
Now, from the content I'm viewing that you're producing, I can see that you're extremely knowledgeable, even though you're not a CPA.
Yeah.
You're extremely knowledgeable about structure, right? And structure is obviously one of them. I've bought and sold many properties myself, obviously over a long period of time. So I know structure is critical, especially for tax minimization, etc. And also, there's certain structures, like your super fund, which suit commercial property and all that sort of thing. So once we're providing not so much financial advice, but high level advice, and I assume that needs to be done in conjunction with their accountant if they've got one.
Exactly.
Do you get much resistance from the accountant saying, "Hey, listen, who's this bloke telling me how to work with you?" Yeah, you must.
And
I was just thinking about this.
You get resistance from everyone, right?
Yeah,
at the end of that, and I'm not saying I'm 100% right all the time.
No, but it's you've definitely got a strong view on certain things.
And the view that I have is not like a made up. View. It's a view that I have because I do so much of this shit myself.
Correct.
So it's like a view based on my own experiences. So we get resistance from accountants. They question why you're doing X, Y, and Z, or why do you want to
So how do you deal with that? Do you with the client? Because that's about managing expectations, right? Like an agent would be managing vendor expectations because someone else is in their head, neighbours saying, "Oh, it's worth this." So is it a matter of maybe regrouping with the accountant, with the client, and saying, "Look, we're all on the same team. We all want to achieve the same thing for our client." But really what you're probably saying in your head is like your accountant's very antiquated in their thinking, right? This person needs to go in a certain direction to accelerate their goals.
Yeah.
So how does it all come together?
I don't do a lot of these calls now. Like my team does this.
Let's just assume
But generally, so I did one, the first day I landed in Europe, I actually had a call with a client and accountant. And I just share. I said, this is my perspective. This is what I've done. This is what I feel like could work best for X, Y, and Z. How do you feel about that? Yep, I think it's great. Or no, X, Y, and Z. The first thing I need to get a temp check on is the client going to trust the accountant more, or are they going to trust me more? If they trust the accountant more, whatever the accountant says, I say, mad. Couldn't care less. I've told you what I think's right. If you think the accountant's right, let the accountant be right. Doesn't change my life whatsoever. But if they want, which 90% of our clients do, they want my advice or they want our company's advice in collaboration with whoever the trusted advisor is. then yeah, it's just getting on the same page to say that this is the reason we believe this.
Yes.
This is what we've seen in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time what we find, like with an accountant, for example, the client doesn't communicate to the accountant like they communicate with us. They tell us, Jack, I want this amount of passive income. I want this asset base. I've got these goals. But they don't tell the accountant that.
Right.
They just call the accountant and say, hey, I'm going to buy an investment property. I want to put it in a trust.
Yeah.
And the accountant's like, why the fuck would you do that?
Yes.
But they give no context to it. It's not like, the reason I want to put it in a trust is because I need to protect my borrowing capacity because I want to buy multiple assets in the future. And if I go buy it in my personal name now, I'm not going to be able to borrow any more money, which is going to wreck my goals.
Yep.
If they give all of that context to their accountant, then their accountant will be able to go, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
And there's also levels to every bit of advice, right? You've got accountants that do PAYG tax returns like H&R Block.
Yes.
And they churn those things out like fucking McDonald's meals.
Yeah.
And you've got accountants that you pay
your top 4
hundreds
PwC.
of thousands of dollars for like I do a year.
Yeah.
That are going to give you very, very different advice.
Yeah.
So it's also understanding who you're dealing with because like the reality is majority of accountants who might work for a bigger firm probably have no wealth themselves. So there might be an accountant that they've got a qualification to say that they can give tax advice legally.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're the right person you should be asking about, growing wealth through property.
Totally. That's what I really enjoyed, just that conversation around all your sales team, let's call them, that are having these conversations, own property themselves. They know what they're talking about. Because I must say that was one of my massive points of difference as a selling agent. Yeah. Is that I knew, even though I couldn't provide financial advice, and I'd always say, look, you should check your accountant on this. Yeah. But, people would say, oh, look, I'm not going to sell it. What I'll do is I'll just rent it out, I'm like, have you actually spoken to your accountant about this? Do you know that the implications, because you've been living here for 25 years, I assume you got little to no debt on it. Yeah. If you do rent it out, it's, any rent that's going to come in is going to be perceived as income, therefore taxable. Yeah. Not to mention it's going to attract capital gains. So, and the people have got no idea. And I'm like, this is something you really, and because I suppose I bought and sold so many investment properties, I bought a property in super fund and all this sort of stuff. Like, it was really a point of difference for me that no one else had actually advised them on before.
And that's the thing. Like, like selling agents, there'd be a lot of selling agents that don't even own their own home.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but if you've been through the ringer a few times as a buyer and a seller, you understand the process a lot more.
Totally.
You can speak from personal experience, which generally I find lands better with people.
Yeah, totally.
And that's why I think people like my content. Yeah. Because like I don't talk about shit that I've never done. Like I'll do something and then I'll talk about it.
Correct. Look, I went through the phase of, having a financial advisor at Macquarie Bank and private and all this sort of stuff. But they were so biased towards the share market, and frankly, it didn't excite me. Right? So I never forget, like just making a call one day and saying, mate, I don't want to look at shares or anything like that. I want to put my money into property through my self-managed super fund. Yeah. Oh, it's very complicated. And I'm like, no, I've done my research. I just need a bare trust, and then I buy it and get it. St. George were doing it in those days, as you know. And he said, oh, but you're going to lose a bit of money if you pull it out of share market. Anyway, I just did it. I think I bought something for in St. Peter's for like 500 grand. It's probably worth 1.3 or something today, right? Yeah. But I understood it and I didn't have to think about it. Because I just knew that the property would be rented and it'd be fine. I wouldn't have to monitor shares. Not that I'm anti-shares. I mean, I was forced into owning shares because I was part of an IPO and all that sort of stuff. I didn't really love it that much. And now I'll just invest through ComSec, through index funds, basically, because it's very hard to outperform, a decent index fund, right? But I'm fascinated how many people are not experts in their field personally, as you said, and providing advice. You know what I mean? So whether it's an agent or a financial advisor, and I suppose that's why there was a Royal Commission on the financial advisory sector, because there was probably some rogue advisors, right?
Lots of them, yeah.
Interesting analysis from my point of view, Jack, is that I know that you're a big advocate on rent vesting, right? So I just want to tell you about my story in that, my entire career, I went from that $170,000 unit and kept going, one in Bondi, then a house in Coogee and this and that. And anyway, I ended up with a $10 million house in Vaucluse and sold.
Are you on Hopetoun?
Yeah, I sold that last year.
I used to run past your
car. Yeah. So I sold that last year. So I'd own investments as well.
Yeah.
But I always saw that tax-free journey as an interesting journey, and the capital growth was always quite attractive.
Mm-hmm.
However, now as I sit here today, I'm 54. First time I've ever rented in my life, right? Because I sold my house, signed a 2-year lease in Potts Point, and I've got multiple investment properties. I'm thinking to myself, I'm listening to Jack on all these TikTok videos, and I'm a fucking rent investor, right? And you know what? I actually find it very therapeutic, because it's like whatever the difference is between the rent and the mortgage repayment, I actually don't even think about it. Some are sort of positive, negative. Some are, but you're talking, negligible, the difference, right? So I don't even look at the account.
Yeah.
And my rent's coming out of my business account because my accountant's sort of part office, part whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, this may not be a bad strategy, but I know the most common resistance you get when you talk about it and you in fact proactively bring it up yourself. It's like, but what about all the tax-free, capital growth that I'm getting in my principal place of residence,
Yeah.
So I actually see both sides because I've lived it,
Yeah.
and I'm a lot older than you, and I'm 54, and I'm like, I don't know whether this is what I'm going to do forever, but at the moment I'm really enjoying the fact that I'm renting and own investment properties. So just talk us through this rent vesting phenomena, because it's not something that was necessarily talked about 20 years ago.
Yeah, so I think we're in the east, obviously, and property here is not cheap. If you compare it to other parts of the country, and rent vesting generally doesn't work as well if you're looking at properties sort of sub $2 million. Like generally rent vesting works much better if you're talking north of $2 million properties.
You mean as investments or principal properties?
As like the value of the property that you're renting or you're buying.
Gotcha.
And the reason for that is because as you go higher in price point, the rental yields become lower and lower.
Yes.
So the difference between what it would cost you to own that property, assuming you borrowed 80%, versus what it would cost you to rent that same property,
especially residential. Especially
residential.
Because you're talking 2%, 2.5% yields.
That's right, versus 6% interest. So it's 1/3 of what it would cost you to own.
Yeah.
And the thing that I find interesting about the owner-occupier space is that everyone wants one thing, and that's freedom. That's what everyone wants. Regardless of who you are, you want freedom, right?
Yes.
So people say, I really want freedom, and I will get it once I pay my home off. If I've got no mortgage, I don't owe anyone $1, I'll have freedom. But that's not true, because even though you have an owner-occupier home that's debt-free and you've got all this capital tied up in it, you can't not get up and go to work tomorrow because your home doesn't pay you.
Yes.
You've still got to work, right? So you don't really have freedom. So my thing is, if you want freedom and freedom's the goal, all the money that you put into buying your own home and decreasing your debt to zero, and then as you get lower debt, you generally go, oh, my mortgage is very low now. I've got a great idea. Why don't I go and upgrade the home? It sounds like you did the same thing. You started in Coogee apartment.
Correct.
You keep upgrading. And every time you upgrade, you get a bigger mortgage.
Yeah, correct.
So you never actually get closer to not debt-free. You just get a bigger home.
True.
Whereas if you use that same effort and money and capital that you use, but you did it with investments, every time you grow your portfolio bigger and bigger and bigger, and you slowly decrease debt, that thing will start to spit off more and more income, which then gives you the outcome that you want, which is freedom.
Yeah.
So people go owner-occupier first, then they do investments. My theory is you can still do owner-occupier, but do it after you've built a really good investment portfolio, because the investment portfolio can pay for your owner-occupier home and everything else that you want to pay for. So I think people have it backwards. The good thing about people loving owner-occupier homes is that that's what drives property prices. Like everyone wants to, as soon as they make a little bit more money, they want to live in a better suburb. They want to drive a better car. They want their kids to go to better schools. So there's like this affluence and this status symbol that comes with living in a better suburb.
Completely. I mean, I'd be a typical, example. 170 subterranean unit to a $10 million house in Vaucluse.
That's right. And everyone,
it's
you
aspirational.
You aspire, right? And it doesn't matter if you're in Vaucluse or in Kellyville or you're in somewhere in Brisbane.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You're always aspiring to be in that better suburb, that better house, that better school catchment zone, you know, because it's like a status symbol when you tell people where you live. You're like, oh, I live in Vaucluse.
Yeah.
I live in blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then you can rent that house that you could have bought for a third or a fourth of or a quarter of what it would cost you to own.
Yes.
And you got flexibility. You know, we're in business, right? Business is amazing some years and fucked others.
Yeah.
You tie yourself to a massive mortgage, and people would have experienced this in the GFC. I was too young to understand the implications, but you got a massive mortgage and you're relying on this certain income. And I actually heard Will Phillips talk about this recently on a podcast where he said that, you know, like the market changed where they did that big Royal Commission into lending.
Correct, yeah.
Back in 18 or 19 or whatever it was. You know, he went from earning X amount of dollars to half overnight. And he just bought this big house in Queen's Park.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of a sudden, where's the money go? How do you pay for this bloody thing?
Yeah,
and when the market shifts, if the economy shifts, the property market shifts, trying to sell a big house with a big mortgage in those markets.
Yes.
And he took a haircut on that house, right?
Yes.
And that would be a common story. That would be like people would buy these big houses, get these big mortgages, something would change. They don't get the bonus they thought they were going to get that year. Their business doesn't do the revenue, you know, they thought it was going to do. And you can't just sell a fucking house like that for a good amount of money. Like you're going to take a haircut.
Yeah.
When you rent, throw the keys back to the property manager and say, keep the bond, I'm out of here.
So you'd be 29 or 30 now, right?
29, just 29 a couple of weeks
ago.
ago.
So do you think you will ever live in an owner-occupied property?
Only if I have a liquidity moment where I pay cash for it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's an incredible store of wealth. If you've got no interest costs.
Yes.
You've got capital gains tax-free growth. You've got no holding costs. You haven't got land tax or anything. It's literally just money sitting there that's growing CGT-free.
Yes.
That's the only time I buy one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've heard you talk about, and you just mentioned it then, like the goal is that, you're going to own this house outright unencumbered. But the reality is with a 30-year mortgage, by the time you upgrade in 5 or 7, it never happens,
That's right. Because and then you get to 50 or 60 years old and you go, fuck, I've got this big house. The kids have moved out. What do I do now? You sell it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the reason you sell it is to use all the money to go and invest and grow income.
That's right. Is there a sensible compromise that works? Which I think I was doing, where I always was upgrading my principal, had investments, and the investments served a purpose. Well, at least I thought anyway, in that I was earning income, therefore the properties were negatively geared, and I was claiming depreciation. Is negative gearing and depreciation enough to warrant owning multiple investment properties, or is it that negligible of a benefit that it doesn't really matter?
Like it's a little, they're sugar hits, right?
Yeah,
you get a tax deduction. The more you earn, the better the deductions are. You earn north of 190 grand a year. Every dollar of deduction gets you 47 cents back. Yeah. So that's awesome. But at the end of the day, you'd never own the properties if it was just for the tax, because the whole game of owning real estate is to get the appreciation on the asset. Yeah.
Not to mention the stamp duty on the way in. Yeah, that's right. And then the selling costs on the way.
And then all your repairs and maintenance and shit, like it costs money. So if the property, if you weren't confident, and it's the same as owner occupiers, if you weren't confident that the price that you paid today was going to be, a tenth of what it's worth in 20 years' time, you'd never buy real estate. Yeah. No one ever would buy an owner occupier home or an investment property if they weren't confident that it was going to be worth more in the future. Yeah. If it was going to be worth the same, you're better off renting. Yes. Because it's cheaper and you're going to have less sunk cost.
What blew me away is watching one of your videos where you're like, I don't know, it was $1 million mortgage or whatever it was. And over, say, 10, 20 years, that $1 million or $500,000 in by the time you look at interest, even if it's interest only.
Over $1 million mortgage over 30 years, you don't just pay back $1 million, you pay back about 2.2. So you pay back the $1 million that you borrowed plus another one in interest.
Yes. And then the dichotomy of that is investment property, which I've seen you sort of do on your whiteboard. Yeah. just talk us through what.
Yeah,
what
so I mean,
that
if you
looks
look at the same side by side, an owner-occupier property,
Yeah.
you pay $1 million, investment, you pay $1 million, right?
Yeah.
You still have the same interest costs over that period of time.
Yeah.
You pay back $1 million plus your 1.1 of interest. The difference is that 1.1 of interest for an investment property is significantly less because you've had rental income covering
correct.
the vast majority of it over that period of time. Plus, you then get your deductions, so that your actual sunk cost is much lower. Now, you do have to pay rent over that same period of time too, so you got to add the rental cost in there.
Got to live somewhere. Yeah,
that's right. Depending on what your appetite is, it obviously depends on how much you'd be paying in rent.
Yeah.
But then at the other end of the journey, which we've touched on briefly, you have an owner-occupier home that you paid $1 million for, you've paid back 2.2 to the bank, and hopefully it's worth 3 or 4 million.
Yes.
But it's debt-free. Let's do the same thing with investment. You paid $1 million, you paid back 2.2 to the bank. It's also worth 3 or 4 million debt-free. The difference is this one's worth 3 or 4 million debt-free, giving you 3 or 4% as a rental income. So it's giving you 200 grand a year of income. This one's worth 3 or 4 million, giving you 0.
Yeah.
And if you ever wanted to give you anything, you've either got to move out of it and rent it out, or you got to sell it and go and invest it into something that's going to give you income. So, if that's the outcome, instead of doing one of these, you could probably do 2, 3, 4, 5 investments for the same sort of cost.
And is your view still that your investment properties should be geared as much as possible?
At a period in your life, they should be. So I'm young, right?
Yeah.
Like I've got my whole career ahead of me. If something fucks up tomorrow and I go broke,
Yeah.
I got years and years and years to rebuild.
Yeah.
So I can be highly leveraged. I can take on more risk than someone who's say 54.
Yeah.
Because if you want to retire in 5 years' time and something fucks up in 3 years' time, kiss retirement goodbye.
Yeah.
Unless you want to be on the age pension.
Yeah.
So the younger you are,
Yeah.
the higher the risk, right?
Okay.
Because you've got more time to recover.
So
the
you'd be
bigger your
talking
goals.
20% equity is fine on most properties?
So I'm constantly refinancing out any available equity.
Right.
But I'm not refinancing it out because I want to piss it up against the wall. I'm refinancing it out because I want to go buy more assets.
Yeah.
Right. So if the equity is just sitting in a portfolio, you can be 50% leveraged or 30% leveraged. It's amazing. You got a huge amount of equity, but it's just wasted money. It's just opportunity cost because it's not giving you anything. So for me now, it's constantly refinancing, constantly reinvesting that capital, making sure I've got enough money sitting on the side for a rainy day in case something changes in business, in case our economy shits the bed. You don't want to be left with no money in the bank and go, fuck, what am I going to do with all these things?
Yeah.
So it's mitigating your risk at the same time. But then you get to a point where you go, I've got enough. I don't need to keep buying.
But that means at your age, if you're constantly refinancing, all your properties, the LVR must be 80%.
That's
on
right.
all of them.
Yeah. Well, they drop. Like we have growth. They drop,
of course.
And then all of a sudden, there's that gap there where I can pull. Like at the moment, I'm doing one. I'll pull out just under $1 million in equity.
Yeah.
And that $1 million will go get me another
property.
6.
But when each time you are doing that, you're at 80%.
You're pulling back up to 80%.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're pulling back up to 80%. If you're a medical or a lawyer or something like that, you potentially pull up to 90%.
Right.
But you're gearing to a point. I mean, you've still got the 20% sitting there.
Yeah.
That's still enough coverage for the bank's
Yes.
position. So if the bank's happy with 20%, then you should be happy with 20% coverage.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if the market comes off a little bit, as long as you can service the debt,
Yes.
you're fine.
And when you go through that refinancing process,
it's fucked. It's a pain in the ass every time.
but it is one of the main criteria the lender's looking at is serviceability.
All serviceability.
Yeah.
You need income.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm fortunate because I've got a business that's growing and it's profitable and that's what gives me money or the ability to lend money.
Yeah.
So if you're not constantly increasing your income,
then you're
going to struggle.
Because, you read a lot of these books and you see these people online, by the age of 26, I've bought 100 properties and all this, but they must have cash flow.
There's only one way to borrow money from the bank in 2025, and that is serviceability.
Correct.
You can have literally 10. You can have a $10 million home in Vaucluse with zero debt on it.
Yeah.
If you earn $100,000 a year, you're borrowing the same amount of money as someone with $0 in equity and $100,000 a year.
Correct.
Probably less actually, because the bank's going to calculate that you've got repairs and maintenance on that $10 million home.
Yeah.
That's all the banks care about. Now you've got non-bank lenders and second-tier lenders where they'll do, low doc and no doc loans where it's a tick and a flick from an accountant to say, yes, you can service the debt.
Yes.
But you pay a premium for that. You got risk fees, you got higher interest rates. Like you generally don't have offset accounts because they're non-bank lenders and they're money holding institutions.
That's getting better though, right? I've noticed that there are a couple of second tier lenders that are offering better products like offsets
100%,
and the rate is not that onerous.
It's not, and
like ThinkTag, Finsure, companies like that.
Yep, there's a lot of lending products out there now, like a lot of lending products. and they all specialize in a slightly different space. Like Judo Bank, for example, wants to dominate that small business market.
Outstanding. Outstanding
Latrobe,
business.
if you're in the development space, sort of sub 10 million, mate, they can't be beaten.
Yes.
But they all have their own little niche in their space that they work in, and I've used all of them at different points in time. I've got debt with Latrobe, I've got debt with Judo, I've got debt with majors. It's just about where you're at that point in your life. I've had tough years in business where we showed zero profitability. The major lender's not going to lend you money on zero profitability, so you have to use these other institutions to be able to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I've gotten my knowledge, is because I've done it. And then I go, oh, fuck, that's good.
Yeah, that's
good
work.
And then I share it with people.
So in your ecosystem at the moment, how many clients at any one stage would be going through this process? Or
we onboard, give or take, 40 to 50 new clients a month.
Right.
So 500 or 600 a year.
Right.
And
is it perpetual?
Meaning, it's growing, yeah.
What I mean though is the client ideally with you for life?
Yeah, I mean, obviously some clients they buy one, sometimes they buy many, sometimes they consistently buy.
Right.
Some people are slower. Some people might buy one now and they might not buy one for a couple of years. But the whole idea is, and look, it's business.
Yeah.
Some people don't like some people are going to use your service once, they're going to have an incredible experience, and they're still not going to come back for no other reason other than themselves.
Understood.
Sometimes you drop the ball. That's business. You can't be 110%. I don't know any business in the world that's got 110% rating.
No, of course.
You make mistakes.
That's incredible though. Onboarding up to 50 people a month.
No, there's some other heavies out there that make us look like fucking make us look like small fish.
But what's this vertical of business known as though? Because you're not financial advisors.
No.
So what's this space called?
I mean, we call ourselves a wealth creation company.
Yeah. So who are these people that make you look like small fish?
There's some big players out there. They don't work in they're still buyers agents, but they work lower dollar value, higher, lower fees. Our fees are much higher than these guys, but much higher volume. Those guys out there doing 100, 150 transactions, 200 transactions a month. There's some off the plan guys out there that, were doing, I know one last year almost did 4,000 transactions.
Wow.
$150 million company.
Yeah.
A year.
Yeah.
So there's some big players in our space.
So would they be known as referral partners?
I mean, the off the plan guys are not really
they do Meriton.
Agents.
They do they
Meriton
just
work with developers. They just sell shit.
Yeah.
The guys in our space, which are fee for service, we would be one of the biggest from a revenue point of view.
Yeah.
But from a volume point of view.
Yeah.
No, there's guys that are.
But in terms of your model, then you'd have both. You'd have fee for service for the consultancy stuff, and then you'd have consignment, which is commission based on when you purchase a property.
So we don't charge commission. We do some owner occupier stuff, which is still a percentage of purchase price.
Yeah.
We have some few guys still running around the east.
Oh, okay. So the investment stock you're buying is a fee for service.
All fixed fee.
Ah.
Yeah. So we charge a fee, and it's fixed fee for service, and a purchase is just incorporated in that, but it also includes all the other.
That's cool.
Value points, yeah. And we went away from charging on success.
Yes.
That's the old model. We charge full fee up front.
It's consignment, basically, yeah.
So people pay us up front.
And are those fees tax deductible if they're buying investment properties?
It depends. It depends on the accountant, because a buyer's agent fee traditionally is not tax deductible. It gets added to the cost base of the property.
Right.
So when you
But if it's in the right structure... Perhaps.
So because not all of our fee is for a buyer's agent service, part of our fee is for advisory, which is tax deductible. Your accounting fees that you pay every year are tax deductible.
Yes.
So part of our fee, being the advisory piece, is tax deductible. We split it into two portions. We have 50% of our fee is for the advisory piece, 50% of our fee is for the buyer's agency.
Yep.
So a portion of our fee is actually deductible, and the other portion of the fee would get added to the cost base of the property, which means when you sell it, you pay less CGT.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just going back to you personally, mate. So from what I understand, you've sort of cleaned up sort of health-wise and not drinking, and when did that all start?
Not in Europe.
I say you had a few drinks in Europe.
Yeah, we had three big sessions, which was good, and I got fucking pneumonia at the end of it. So there you go. That's how good drinking is.
Yeah, and you only just got back yesterday, right?
Yesterday, yeah. Flew in yesterday morning.
So okay, so because there's a lot of people that advocate that's it. They used to have not a great relationship with alcohol, and then stop altogether. So you've reached a point with your relationship with alcohol, you could just take it or leave it.
Yeah, so
and special occasions or whatever.
I went through the stage where I didn't drink at all, 365, and that was good. It built my relationship with, it built my health relationship with myself, going, if I drink, I'm going to feel like absolute asshole tomorrow, and I don't know if I want to feel like that.
Yeah.
Where previous to that, I'd never have that thought because I was just used to feeling like shit after drinking. So you don't even really think about it. You're like, fuck yeah, I'm going to have a hangover and I'm going to be cooked for a few days. Where now, because I love my health so much, like, you know, I'm quite an energetic person, and you really notice when I've drunk.
Yeah.
Like if you see me one day now without drinking and full of fucking energy, clear, and you see me after a night on the piss, I'm like two different people.
So how often is that now then?
Like never. Like, so I went to Europe, had 3, we were there for 21 days or 22 days. I had 3, I went to two day clubs in Saint-Tropez. One was for my birthday, one was just for lunch, and I had a night in Paris. But all 3 of those nights were, you know, not even midnight. And I was
So it might be 6 months until you have another drink.
I won't drink now until the end of the year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I'm back now, full steam work-wise until December, and then we go to Bali. We a whole company retreat in Bali at the end of the year. I'll have 1 or 2 nights on the piss over there, have a bit of fun. We have a big client event at the end of the year. I'll have a piss up that night, and that's it.
So do you think you had a poor relationship with alcohol though?
Yeah, so I'm a very like all or nothing personality. You know, whatever I put my mind to, I'm all in. Yeah, and alcohol was the same. Like you've never seen someone like me. Like you can ask anyone who's seen me on the piss before, and they all say the same thing: "You're fucking out of control." That's what they say. Yeah. And I used to like wear that as a badge of honor. Yeah, you know, I'm like Jack the loose bloke. You know, when I was young, that was like cool. Like, but it's not. You know, like I've gotten myself into a lot of trouble. I've been on the piss. I made a lot of stupid decisions. I carry a lot of shame after I've been on the piss. Like I fucking, why the fuck did you do that? Why'd you say that? You know, like I'm not the person that I like to be. Yeah. And now like my really close friends, you know, now only on the piss, you'll never see me in public.
Yes.
So in Europe, no one knows who the fuck Jack Henderson is. Yeah. But if I'm in Sydney and I'm on the piss, you don't see me in public. I'm in a hotel room or I'm on a boat or I'm somewhere that I'm controlled. Yeah. Because now too many people know who I am. Yeah. Yeah. In Australia to be on the piss doing something stupid. You know, like we've all seen the horror stories of celebrities and all these people who people are waiting for you to fuck up. You know, so now I'm really, really conscious of that if I'm having fun, it's around no one else other than a really good group of friends.
Yeah, so in my 30s, I didn't have probably the best relationship with alcohol, mainly because I was just going out and just drinking and partying. When you grow up in the 90s and 80s, like around here was pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same now. Like,
yeah, but so for 3 years was nothing. And then literally I remember waking up one day after 3 years and saying, I'm going to go to Victoria Room tonight, which you would know, you're too young. It was in Victoria Street. And I'm going to have a gin and tonic. And ever since then, mate, I could take or leave. I could go 6 months not drinking. I could have a glass of wine at dinner. I could have 4 beers while I'm out on my boat. Yeah. It's just really bizarre. Like that 3 years was just so necessary just to change the paradigm.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
If I'm going to drink, I'd rather either go all in and really, because I don't really enjoy the taste of alcohol. So I enjoy the effects alcohol gives you after you've had 10, but I don't enjoy the taste. So if I go out, I don't ever get tempted by one glass of wine or anything like that. I'd rather have a nice dinner, drink water, and feel $1 million. Because if I have 1 or 2 drinks, I still don't feel the same the next day. I wake up with a bit of anxiety. You don't sleep as well. Yeah. It's harder to train, like all that stuff. So I'd rather not have any, or I'd rather completely
and just
send it. Yeah. And just know that tomorrow's going to be super.
And tell me when this negative media thing occurred. Yeah. I mean, it was a bit of an expose on ABC, and they made quite an example of you and your mate in Newcastle and all.
Mark.
That. Yeah. So what was that all about, mate? Like,
so I mean, it was a story on the real estate industry, which you would have seen. Yeah. It was essentially like, this is the real estate industry and the dirty tactics that they use, right? That was the story. So they already had the story. The real estate story was going to be run. And then what ABC did is they went out to the public, and you can go on their Facebook and see this from whenever it was, many years ago. And they said, who do you know in the real estate industry that we can include in our story.
Yes.
Now, when you're Jack Henderson and you've got a big brand and there's a lot of people who dislike me, you can imagine how many times my name come up. Do research into Jack Henderson, blah, blah, blah. So obviously my name's come up in that, and then they've started to go around and fucking do some snooping and digging and all the rest of it. And they saw that my business partner at the time was a real estate agent.
Yeah, Mark. Yeah.
Mark. Awesome. Nothing illegal about that. Nothing untoward about it. We had... I don't know if you've ever met Mark before, but he is the most anal person you've ever met when it comes to compliance and shit like that. So we had everything completely above board. They said, oh, you've got, how's your structure, blah, blah, blah. Our legal team sent them everything under the sun that they needed. So they knew that nothing was wrong.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop them from running a story,
of course.
because my brand being in that story was a good thing for their story, because it means more people were interested.
Yeah.
They started asking around to all of our clients, hey, did you know that Jack's business partner is a real estate agent? I don't know how many clients we had at the time, hundreds. They found one client that was happy to go on camera. One out of hundreds.
Yeah, I remember.
So they spoke. Mind you, that property we bought them is probably worth double what they paid for it. And they had a really great experience with us. And I've got all the messages to prove that.
Yeah.
But, they got approached. Oh, did you know that, Jack's business partner was, I didn't know that. Would you have bought the property? Oh, we would have thought about it more. Yeah, I'm sure you would have.
Yeah.
So the story was really nothing. But they made it seem like it was something, right? So they said that, we had this thing called a non-disparagement clause in our contracts. Apparently they're illegal. They're not illegal. Like, I'm not sure who they thought wrote my contract. I didn't write my agreement myself.
Yeah.
A highly paid lawyer wrote my contract.
Yes.
And we had a non-disparagement clause in our contract, which doesn't mean you can't, people, what were they saying? It's a gag clause. That's what the AVC called it. And naturally, most people out there are uneducated, so they just go, gag clause must mean you can't say anything bad about the company. That's not true. What a non-disparagement clause says is you can't say anything about our company that is untrue that can bring our company into disrepute. That's right. Nothing wrong with that. And the reason that we had that in our contract is because when we first started in 2020, 2021, we had this client that we bought a property for. They were living in Byron Bay. We bought a property in the inner west, right? The husband flew down before we bought the property, saw it, loved it. Bang, we bought it. Bang, exchange on the property. The wife hadn't seen the property yet other than in videos, but the husband had. They come down on settlement day. She sees the property and goes, oh, this is different to what I thought. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I can't believe we've got to do work to it. Like all this stuff. And then blaming us for it. Going, well, I'm like, your fucking husband come and looked at the property. You've seen all the videos and photos. You've seen the personal building report. Like, you knew what you were buying. The contract. And bought it. Exactly right.
Yeah.
But then they blackmailed us and said, well, if you don't discount your fee, I'm going to write a terrible review. And at that time, like a 1-star review to a company that's only got 20 reviews is a fucking not a great thing.
Yeah.
I was like, are you serious? Yeah, no. So we had to come to an agreement with these people to discount our fee based on them buying a property that the husband saw, exchanged, and the wife didn't like it when she came and saw it on settlement day. So anyway, I called my lawyer and I said, this has happened. How do I make sure this never happens again? He goes, oh, easy. Just put a non-disparagement clause in your contract. Right. If anyone ever does that and says, because it wasn't true what they were saying, then you can sue them. And I was like, great. So that's how the non-disparagement clause actually come about.
Right.
Because someone tried to fuck us.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, when these other clients who ended up going on the show, they come on and they went through our contract and they said, oh, we want to remove the non-disparagement clause. And I was like, oh, fuck, I don't know about this. So I rang my lawyer and I said, hey, these guys want to remove this clause. What do you think I should do? And the only words he said to me was, the people who want to remove those clauses are the exact people they're in there for. And I hung up and fucking silly me took it out and took him on board as a client, and look what happened.
Yeah, wow.
So, it was just a bunch of shit. That's all it was. It was a bunch of shit that they tried to say.
I know all about it, mate. I know all about it.
And I never commented on it at the time. When it went out, the advice I got at the time was, just let it pass. Who gives a fuck? You've done nothing wrong. Fair Trading did an investigation into us, fully cleared us of any wrongdoing. I've got the letter in my phone for anyone who ever asks to say, here, read this.
Yeah.
And And that was it, you know.
Yeah.
But like, it still comes up every now and then. Oh,
Of
Four
course.
Corners, this, that. And I just go, mate, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And what you learn as I've started to get into circles now that have much bigger, like I've just joined YPO recently, and you know, very, very big businesses in there. And it's like, you look at all the businesses and the founders of those businesses and the shit that they've been through to get to that. So it's just it's a given.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have issues.
Totally.
There's going to be people who try and tear you down. You're going to make mistakes too that are wrong, and you're going to get fucking slapped on the wrist about it. And if you're unhappy with that or you can't live with it, you're never going to have a business of that scale.
Correct.
You look at someone like Donald Trump, for example, whether you love him or hate him, I don't know him, I don't have an opinion on him, but you don't get to a level like that, you know, without some sort. Elon Musk, richest man in the world.
Yeah.
Every second bloody minute he'd have something like hammering him. So
Totally. That's interesting. Yeah, and was there much immediate fallout in terms of loss of business?
100%. Yeah, we dropped about 30% that financial year, but dropping 30% means zero profit, like negative.
Wow.
You know, and it happened instantly, right? So as soon as the story went live, like we got hammered.
And how long did it take to recalibrate?
12 months. Like it took a year, because the issue is like, my brand wasn't as big as it is right now, and the reason I've grown so much since then is I said to myself, if this ever happens again, or when this happens again, I'm going to make sure I'm in a position where it doesn't affect me like it did. So my brand needs to be as big or bigger than the fucking person who's trying to hammer me.
Correct.
But yeah, it took 12 months. You know, we had to fully pivot our business model. But again,
and you never came out with a statement saying this is not true. Right? You just left it.
I just thought,
I was advised the same thing.
The only people who's going to care about that shit are the people who are never going to be your customers anyway. So who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
I was advised the same thing when I went through. They just said just leave it. Like, you know, it's what are you going to say? Like, it's like at the end of the day, people are not going to reinvent their opinion if they know
that's
you.
Right.
And there's going to be some people that are going to judge you.
If someone was to come out now about me that was untrue, like, or someone trying to have a crack. Like, I probably would fucking tear it to shreds, to be honest. And I'd do it in a way that's funny and but back then I didn't have a brand like I have now.
Yeah. And what about Mark's business? Did that cop it as well?
Yeah, I mean, that was even harder, right? Because that was like a local business.
Yeah.
You know, the Newcastle Herald, and there's a journalist there who's just a cunt.
Yeah.
And you know, like, same thing, like just hammer the fucking businessman. Like Mark and I are not in business anymore together, but we're still mates. And like the amount of fucking shit he does for the Newcastle community, the people he helps behind closed doors, like people have no fucking idea. And you know, they just throw shit at someone who's probably done more for that fucking region than anyone that I know. Like you ask Mark about Newcastle and mate, he's like the number one advocate. But the sad thing is, like, because of all the shit that's happened up there and the people that, you know, sort of stab you in the back, you sort of lose that love for somewhere that, you know, it's upsetting. But
so was his the effect on his business the same? Like it took him 12 months?
It took a hit. You know, you lose agents because agents go, I don't want to work. And it's like, it's not even true, the shit that they're saying, you know? And Mark's been through some stuff in the past before that. But, you know, he had a big balance sheet and you know, you sort of ride through those things. But it's still annoying because you get, like, they had a lot of momentum.
Yeah.
They rebranded, you know, we were just talking about someone where this has happened before. Same thing, you have a bit of an issue. Number one office in the network for fucking X amount of years. The biggest advocate for the brand prior to leaving. They just wipe you like a fucking dirty rag and off they go.
That's the way large organisations are, unfortunately.
So it wasn't, mate. It was an unpleasant time.
Completely.
A really unpleasant time. That's what sort of led to Mark and I going our separate ways, which, you know, we had its pros and cons, but like, it was like, we just sat there and we're like, is it really worth it? Like, we joined forces originally. I was a buyer's agent. He had a big selling agent. We joined forces originally because we thought, how many buyers can buy properties off your organisation? They sell 500 a year, right? At that time, give or take, 600. Okay, so 600 people buy properties off your business. How many people miss out? Five people miss out per property. So that means that there's 2,500 or 3,000 people that never get to buy a property through the organisation. So why can't we go and help those people buy a property, right? Because they can't buy through you. They're going to go buy through someone else. They're probably going to get fucked over by another agent. That's how it all come about, was wanting to help buyers.
It's still happening today between agents and buyers agents.
100%.
They're referring themselves all the business all the time. Same as what Josh Tesson got smashed for in the media about incentives. Like it's
the
Real Estate Institute who deregulated fees to start with. When I first started the industry, they were regulated. They deregulated, so everyone does incentives. Like it's mental.
It's funny, man. Like it's hard. You want to be, and I sort of I struggle with this. It's like you want to be out there. You want to push as much content as you can. You want to be as open book as you can.
Yeah.
Like, I talk about everything. Like the way that I've talking about it on this podcast is exactly how it unfolded in real life. Like that's the reality.
Yeah.
But I tell people everything. I share numbers with people. Like nothing is out of bounds of me. Has its pros because you build a lot of trust with people, but it has a con because you've got fuckwits out there in the world who want nothing more than to see someone crumble and burn, right? Like that's that's their desire, is to see you crash.
I know all about it, man. We've both got some pretty interesting trolls out there. I did a post the other day about then I got this thing in my phone in my notes section about my standard response, which is like, I find these comments are best delivered in person. This is my office address. What time can I book you in tomorrow?
Yeah.
And none of them ever respond, you know? So it's like, and it's like you, I think I saw you say it too. It's like some nebulous handle, which is, you know, hashtag Mike217 or something. Like they're invisible people.
Some are not invisible though. Some people I know, there's people out there that, you know, like just despise of me. Never met me before.
I think it's more polarizing than despising. Yeah, like I had a journalist last week call me the most polarizing character in real estate. I thought that was the best, you know, compliment like anyone could give me, right? Yeah. It's like, what's wrong with that? So either some people are really going to resonate towards me and the ones that don't, that's cool,
but
right?
It makes me think like I don't need to put out content. You know, I can grow my business. I could go behind the scenes and no one would even know I exist and what I do.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality. I can just do paid media. I can generate business and I'm off to the races. So like, you know, there's people out there that make me think, and I thought about this a lot in Europe. I'm like, why the fuck do I even bother? Like, I don't need to put this shit out to the people. I don't give a fuck if anyone knows how to invest in property. Go and do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
I don't need to share anything with anyone.
Yeah.
But you do it because you want to help people. You know, it's obviously good for business. But there's lots of businesses you wouldn't even know the founder, so it's easy to build a business without me being in the limelight as well.
Yeah. But you may not even know it, but you've got an altruistic approach where you're paying it forward as well, Hendo. Like, you know, I actually spend 50% of my working time putting out free content. So podcast, articles in REB, articles in the Real Estate Conversation, tips every single day. I've got a new tip, a new quote or whatever. Like and the other half I'm charging people like fee for service. But to be honest, I've been blessed, you know, with 35 years in the industry. So I really enjoy being a blessing to others that are learning. And I actually given I don't have kids and it's unlikely I'm going to, I genuinely want my legacy to be to create a much superior industry to what we have at the moment, which is, when you look at it generally, it's heading in the wrong direction. That's my opinion. I think we need more, you know, tertiary qualified people. We need more educated people like you.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with you or not, you can listen to your content and have a really good understanding that you know what you're talking about, you're passionate about it, and you believe in it, right? And you've done it yourself. So that's hard to argue with, in my opinion. So just to wrap up, mate, what's next for this empire?
There's not too much new that's happening. It's just more of what we're doing right now and obviously making the current business bigger. So we've got a really big focus on asset management. So, you know,
property management.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. I see that as a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, 3 million properties in Australia that need managing. 30% of the market is investment. The biggest property management business in Australia would be 20,000 maybe. So it's a very segmented industry, massively segmented, really inefficient. And so we're going on really aggressive acquisition at the moment not at the moment, it's going to be a consistent thing we do of property management for a few reasons.
Yeah.
One, the bigger our property management business, the bigger the stream of properties we can buy for our clients. Because let's say 5% of a property management business sells every year.
Which they do.
If we control them, that's properties that our clients can buy before anyone else knows about them.
Yeah.
It gives us the ability to be able to meet our clients a long time before their clients. Because were you a tenant before you bought your first property? Did you rent before you bought? Or did you move out of home?
No, I moved out of home, bought property straight away.
You're not the common type.
Yes.
Most people move out and rent first.
Yeah, that's right.
And if most people move out and rent before they buy, that means our future clients are tenants right now. Which means if we can get them much further upstream, at the moment we're competing where everyone else is competing when people are thinking about investing.
Yeah.
If we're competing upstream and helping tenants get into the market, how to budget, how to fucking save for your first deposit, how to apply for a loan, all that stuff, you know, we're much further ahead. And the end goal is to build, you know, I'm not sure if you know who Dave Ramsey is.
Yep.
In the US, but you know, he's very much around like financial literacy, financial education, like the basic understanding of money before you talk about all the investing stuff.
Yeah.
That's how our business will end up evolving.
Okay. And do you agree with the current multiples that are out there at the moment?
I don't agree with how they sell on top line.
Right.
You mean property management?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't agree with how they sell on top line because that's a manufactured multiple based on Macquarie. Macquarie set that standard,
Correct.
right? Like, well, we're going to value them based on, we'll lend you 3 times top line.
Yeah.
So now that's what they're worth.
Yeah.
If you actually look at them on an EBIT multiple, we're looking at one at the moment. It'll be about a $16, $17 million transaction. It'll be one of the biggest that's happened in New South Wales for a very, very, very long time. You know, it's a business that's probably doing $8 or $9 million in top line, you know, 1.5 in bottom line. But you then look at that as a multiple of what we're going to pay for it, 16 or 17 million bucks.
Yeah.
You're paying like a 10 to 12 times EBIT multiple.
Yeah.
You aren't paying that for any other service business because that's not how they're valued. So I think there's an issue with how they're valued, and the reason that is because Macquarie just set the standard, right?
Yeah. And
so
given they've got the majority of
they're getting
asset
competition now with NAB and CBA with them going pretty hard into it. But there's just massive efficiencies that are going to happen. Like we've built our own asset management software with Agentic AI, which means we're going to need less people to do the jobs.
It's definitely going to be the first vertical of our industry that's going to be either disrupted or disintermediated altogether by technology.
Yeah, it's happening. And I think they can be way more profitable than what they are right now. You know, like you look at any other sort of, it's a SaaS style business, right? There's more humans involved because there is a human element where you need to get ingoings, outgoings, routines and all the rest of it. But other than that, most of the other stuff can be done by tech.
Yeah.
And we're working on that, which means you should be able to run like net margins of 50 to 70%.
Yeah, see,
but at the moment they're running at like
30.
10,
30 would be a huge result.
I reckon most of them that we're looking at are running 10, 15% net margins.
But most people's goal, because I do a lot of business advisory, is to run at 30%. Yeah. Yeah, both in sales and in property management. Yeah.
So we're really bullish on that. So you'll start to see us play in that space a lot more.
That's awesome. Mate, I've really enjoyed the chat.
Likewise, man. Thank you.
Welcome back. Thanks for being a return guest on the podcast. It's been awesome to catch up. And
thanks for having me again.
Hopefully we'll get to see each other again soon, my man.
We'll do another 3-year stint in between.
Yeah,
and hopefully
exactly.
I can come back and give you all the good news.
All right, my man.
Thanks, legend.